everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Today I want to share a story with you guys. A story about two of the most prolific graffiti artists in the world. That being PK and Kid, along with an unlikely man, Lil Mike, who helped bring their story and their journey to light. Now, if you guys want to follow Lil Mike, I have his information in the description down below for you. I recommend you go ahead and check him out. PK started his journey through graffiti completely by accident. At the very early age of 10 years old, back in 1977, he was infatuated, passionate, and loved rock music, like many early graffiti artists did as well. So as an adventurous kid, he found himself exploring his area and walking along train tracks, where he would stumble across little tiny things that other kids would write on the walls. Pete loves Andrea, things of that nature that you might see in any neighborhood. Something that was really common back in the 70s and the 80s was you would also see people writing things that correlated to rock bands that they really enjoyed. Now, PK really enjoyed and loved Black Sabbath, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, and The Who. And he loved seeing these other people also put up their favorite rock bands in different areas. This kind of helped bridge the gap for him. The gap between rock, something that he loved and was passionate about, and these mysterious writings from other kids. These rock band logos were an early start for PK, as these inspired him. They had really cool logos, really cool ways of writing their name, and he would oftentimes spend his young years copying these logos. It didn't take long for him to grab a spray can and begin putting that stuff up outside. Now, he spent a few years in his face, and like anybody else doing that sort of thing at that time, they didn't really consider themselves graffiti artists. Graffiti artists seemed to be this other weird enigma, something that wasn't just writing the names of your favorite rock bands or anything related to that. But this was the gateway drug. This kind of opened up the floodgates for PK, because as he did the Doors logo, he found a love for their letters, which led him to do other bands whose letters he also loved. And this put the seed in his mind of, all right, let me try my initials. If I can do these bands names, then surely I can go ahead and do my initials. So he stopped putting up the bands, put that to the side, and this is where he becomes an authentic graffiti writer. He begins his journey defining himself separate from the bands and the rock tags he was doing. And as he started to go ahead and put his initials up, other graffiti that we would recognize as normal graffiti begins to stand out to him. He begins to read it more. He takes a bigger interest in it. And like it does to all of us, it hooked him. He became addicted to graffiti, which we all know in those early days is infatuating. The sound, the smell, and just the whole entire ambiance when you're out there catching spots, it hits all of us, and it hit PK the same exact way. He says it's at this point, around this time, that he started only writing PK, and at this point he realized, I'm a graffiti artist, not knowing the legend he would soon become. Now, that revelation happened around 1979 to 1980. Now, we gotta take a second away from these guys and talk about you. Many of you guys have been struggling with graffiti, you felt stuck, or maybe you're just new and you don't know where to learn. I'm confident that our Ultimate Graffiti Guidebook will teach you everything you need to know about the science behind graffiti and how it's done. We've had guys brand new to the art form who've learned more after reading this very easy to follow book than they've learned in years of doing graffiti. And we've had other guys who spent decades in the game, read our book one time, and learned far more than they imagined. And that could easily be you as well. The reason our book is so helpful is because we systematically break down each and every single one of graffiti's fundamentals with extreme amounts of detail. And you'd think something like that would be difficult to read. With the way that we wrote it, and with having hundreds of pictures throughout the book from cover to cover, anybody can follow this book. Doesn't matter if you have 1 day experience in graffiti or 50 years of experience in graffiti, this book is gonna have something for you. Check out digital copies over at theartistblock.inc with physical copies over on Amazon. And use this coupon code to save yourself 15% off. Let's get back into the video. Now, a big inspiration for him at the time was Rin 1. And for PK, he saw Rin as like a bit of friendly competition. He saw his work everywhere he went, and he decided, as I guess a self-imposed challenge, I have to be up as much, if not more, than Rin. Now, in PK's own words, Rin was a lot better at the time, and PK was no challenge for him. Rin represented an aspiration for PK, something to live up to and hopefully surpass one day. And it didn't take long for him to see the other graffiti around his area and begin thinking, you know, this isn't enough for us. Taking these little tags here and there, taking these easy spots that everybody else is having, it's not hitting the way that I want it to. I'm not getting the adrenaline that I need from this. And I'm also not getting up in the way that I need to be getting going up. And they had this philosophy of their graffiti being all about the spot, all about where are you hitting, focusing on that, focusing on the quality of the actual spot, the wall that you're about to take, and making the most of that, making it memorable and impactful. And this is where rappelling came into the picture. You see, PK had rappelling experience from his actual job. It's something that he knew how to do, and he knew how to do it well. While some people would be nervous rappelling, like me, you won't catch me doing that, let me tell you right now. This was just another Tuesday for PK. So PK decides to take that rappelling experience and apply it to graffiti and his philosophy of getting higher quality spots. So he sets out for his first rappelling mission. Now here's the thing we have to understand about PK and Kid. When they set out to hit a spot, it's never a spur of the moment whim, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this without doing any research. PK and Kid haven't been arrested for graffiti. These guys have gotten away with everything that they've done, and they did that by scoping the spot out. And they did their research on what they should hit, where they should hit, when they should hit, and how they should hit that spot. They'd plan the entrance, you know, how are we gonna get into the actual spot and up to the actual wall that we want to go ahead and hit. They would plan their exits. All right, somebody catches us, if somebody sees us, how do we get down and get out safely? They treated this more like a bank heist. Proper preparation. My dad always used to tell me proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and these guys put that into action with full force. So it came time for PK's first rappelling job, the top of the DSNY Salt Dome. And obviously this was an optimal spot. Any graffiti artist will tell you that, I mean, it's an amazing spot because something that high up, something that large can be seen from very far away. You do your name big enough and everyone's gonna see your name. Graffiti artists and laymen alike. And that's the name of the game, isn't it? The name of the game being get up and get up big. Well, it wasn't getting much bigger than this. And this is one that he did solo, with the use of just a rope and a nail. He didn't even use rappelling equipment. According to PK, he took the rope, tied it into knots, and it allowed him to climb up and down the rope, as he put it, as if it was a staircase. So when did PK and Kid actually link up? According to PK, they met up somewhere around 84 or 85. He's not 100% sure if he already knew Kid at that point or if they met a little bit after. But these two guys joining forces was a dynamic duo like graffiti had hardly seen before. I'd even say they've never seen a dynamic duo quite like that before. PK and Kid went on this one mission where they were hitting a paper mill, and this paper mill is one of the most difficult jobs that they've done, according to PK. Question becomes, why was it so hard? I mean, you've got rappelling experience, and you can clearly climb based off the different things that we've seen him do. The issue was that the actual building itself had a lot of different roofs that you had to climb up in order to get to the spot that they actually wanted to paint. And while any of those roofs would have been sufficient for just about any other writer, that wasn't cutting it for them. They had to get, as they would put it, the spot, the best spot, all the way at the top. So they had to figure out how to get up on the different levels of the roofs. Once they got to the top, PK and Kid took turns painting until the job was done. And over time, what Kid ended up doing on that night, on that paper mill, can no longer be seen today. However, what PK did on that paper mill can still be seen at the time of this interview. And he credits this to the fact that he used Kills Primer, something that is long lasting and really hard to go ahead and erase. Now, through all the journeys these two guys shared, like all good things, it comes to an end. And PK mentions how there was a period where they hadn't talked for roughly 2 years, crediting age for being one of the reasons why they kind of went in their different directions. And once again, I'm not sure if they've rekindled it or if they've talked or if they've done anything together since he's said that, but I do know that Kid retired in September 26th, 2025. He announced his retirement. But I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, a graffiti artist retiring is kind of like Michael Jordan back in the day, right? Not that I'm a huge basketball guy, but you know, graffiti artists will say, hey, I'm done, I retired, and then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later, they're right back in. So may we see Kid again in the future? Who knows? It's possible. Now, PK does note one of the spots that they hit as being really challenging. Challenging because when they were doing one of the billboards where they had rollers, there was heavy winds blowing so hard that when they poured the paint into the tray, the wind just took it away before the paint would even reach the tray. It took them 3 attempts to get the paint on the actual roller itself. But at the same time, despite the challenge, he says that no spot was really ever hard. You either have the guts to do it or you don't. On a personal note, I know when I hit heaven spots, it boils down to the same personal traits and qualities. Are you brave enough to do that right now without giving too much thought into it or not? If you think too much about it, you're not going to do it. But for some of those spots, there is that apprehension, that nervousness that sets in. And I can relate to that because while some spots I certainly went ahead and did, there was other things such as rappelling, for example, where I wouldn't touch it. You wouldn't catch me doing it at all whatsoever. Wasn't brave enough for it. But these two guys, even through the fear, you still went through with it because you had to get the spot. Now, here's the thing, man, because when you have yourself a graffiti partner, you know, you have somebody that you really trust and they're this good of a partner, well, that kind of just suggests how good of friends you guys are. And you know what's, you know, when it comes to friends, the best thing to do is mess with them. So these guys were painting one day. Now PK pretended to fall off the bridge, and Kid believed it. He was fully invested. Kid is thinking that his friend is dead, his friend is gone, and all the while at the same time, Kid is also thinking that he's gonna die. That's terrible to do to somebody, but it is hilarious. These kinds of spots, this kind of ambition, and this kind of drive and bravery is what led PK and Kid to become two of the most prolific graffiti artists in the world, with fans all over the globe. But their work goes further than just within the graffiti community. Their influence and their impact has touched the average person just because of the mystique behind what they've done. To the average person, they see normal graffiti and wonder how we do it. They see a tag 12 feet off the ground and they think, oh my gosh, how did they get that up there? So when the average person sees a PK and Kid throwy, hand style, whatever it might be, at the very top of a water tower, their brain melts, asking themselves, how could anybody get up there to do something like that? There's legends that they had to rappel off of helicopters in order to actually do these spots, which is crazy. That's ridiculous. The average person will take a drive and they'll spot a PK and Kid hand style or something that they've done, and it becomes almost like a game to them. I've seen this even within my own family, where you try to see how many you could spot, you try to go ahead and see where you'd even spot them. Similar thing with JA. And one of these average people who became infatuated with PK and Kid is Lil Mike, the guy who runs the fan page over on Instagram. He plays an interesting role in their legacy because he brings their graffiti more so into the light while still respecting the privacy of PK and Kid. And he also uses their artwork to do good for the actual community itself. But there's a bit of a mystery here. So in 2015, Lil Mike purchases a Durango, and he gets custom PK and Kid license plates put on it. Now at the time, he says he was just a fan of PK and Kid, and his only goal in the beginning was to have them go ahead and tag the car. At this point, there wasn't any fan page, but his wife and his daughter go ahead and essentially get him on Instagram, to which he decides, you know what, because you put me on Instagram, I'm gonna dedicate this page to PK and Kid. So in 2016, Mike begins adding decals of PK and Kid onto the car itself, and he visits the shop in Staten Island in order to add another decal. And by some random chance, the guy at the shop confronts him and says, I don't know if Kid would like this. I'm not sure he would approve. Give me your number, let me call Kid and see if he would actually be down with this whole thing. So the shop owner grabs his phone, dials Kid's number. At this point, Mike is feeling a little bit disheartened. He's feeling like, you know, I might have to delete the fan page, I might have to take these decals off, you know, there's money invested into that. And he goes off. The shop owner calls Mike back and says that Kid gave the blessing. He knows all about Mike, probably even follows his page. That's just my own 2 cents right there. But he's well aware of Mike, his Durango, and he gives the blessing. Go ahead and put those decals on. But on top of that, Kid offers to sign the Durango. So later on, at some unknown point, Kid sneaks over to Mike's house and signs the Durango. A couple years later, Kid offers to do the entire back window of the Durango, and just to have control over the actual environment around Kid while he's painting, Kid instructs Mike to leave the Durango at a specific spot in Staten Island. And because Kid already knows where Mike lives, the next morning Mike wakes up and the Durango is back in his driveway with the entire back window painted. At this point, Mike has been integrated into the graffiti community and seen as a trustworthy figure within Kid's inner circle. So Mike decides to hit up PK and Kid for a good cause. Asks them, hey look guys, like, can we do some charity work? I want to go ahead and get a bunch of stuff from you guys, whether it's, you know, you sign a little something or you have any artwork that we can then sell and take that money and donate it to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. They both agree, and Mike ends up donating $8,000 to St. Jude's Charity Hospital. At this point, the charity work continues every Christmas season. You guys might remember here on the channel, we actually promoted it last year, if I remember correctly. Maybe 2 years ago. I forget which one. Now, this all just started with Mike wanting PK and Kid's signatures on the car itself. And while it took some time, he ended up getting PK on the car as well. But more than that, he also has various other graffiti legends on this car. Pretty much, if you're somebody in graffiti, you're on this car as well. He's got people like JA. He's got Giz. He's got Goal, I think he has on there as well. He's even got Ghost and Tats crew on there. And that's just scratching the surface because the whole car is hit up with different hand styles, throwies, pieces, the whole 9 yards. But everybody who's somebody is on that Durango. Unfortunately, in 2021, Mike's wife was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and given 5 years to live. Because of this, to achieve a goal that him and his wife had, he retired and moved down to Florida where they had wanted to retire to, and he's dedicated himself to charity work. Now, I've seen some interviews with Mike, and I've seen him talk to various people, and there's always one thing that comes up in the comment section, and it even came up in one of the interviews, and that is, Mike, are you PK or Kid? And every time that presents to him, he always responds respectfully, saying that there's no way he could possibly be them. And what I like about PK and Kid, as well as Lil Mike's involvement with the whole thing, is they really embody the whole entire superhero aspect that all of us graffiti artists kind of live by, or at least used to live by, and that is having a secret identity where the name that we write is this separate persona. And if Lil Mike is not them, then he kind of acts as this supportive role who helps push their artwork to a broader audience and helps do something good and productive for people in need. It's rare you see graffiti kind of spin itself into something like that. So now Mike takes the Durango to places like Art Basel, where a lot of people get to enjoy the Durango, and as time goes, other legends find themselves on the vehicle as well, and Mike finds himself getting respected within the graffiti community, even though he's never written a day in his life. People respect him for the Durango and what he's done for the community. Graffiti artists appreciate him, and we've pulled him into this community as one of our own, as his Durango has become essentially a relic and a bit of a treasure in the graffiti community. Something that, in all honesty, is worth putting into a museum with some of the names that it has on there. But that just about wraps up the history of PK and Kid, as well as the involvement of Lil Mike. And if you guys want to follow Lil Mike, check out the description. I have all of his information linked down below for you. Let me know what you guys think about PK and Kid in the comments down below. Let's have a bit of a discussion about it. And while you're at it, don't forget about our Ultimate Graffiti Guidebook, which you can also find in the description, where we have digital copies over at theartistblock.inc with physical copies over on Amazon. Want the best graffiti tutorials anywhere online? Check those out right up here, with more graffiti content right down here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.